I dance with my eyes closed too. Hello there, CriterioNate here. Like it. Number 457, Douglas Sirk's Magnificent Obsession. Almost rhymed, but it didn't. Anyway. 1954, 108 minutes, color monaural 2.0, 1 aspect ratio. Oh my god, this movie is... Oh god, this movie's miserable. It's now when I say miserable, it's not bad. It's a great movie. But good god. Good gravy. I mean, like... What the hell, man? just knock it just right here. It's the kind of movie that gets you right here, you know. Good God. I mean, so this is our second movie by Douglas Sirk. Well, the third movie by Douglas Sirk, but our second movie to be directed by Douglas Sirk and to star Jane Wyman and Rock Hudson. Wow. How about that? That's a trip and a half if you can believe that. I don't remember which one came first. I believe Magnificent Obsession came first in '54, and I think the other one came later. But gosh, now I need to know. But anyway, yeah. So they're both really sad movies about you know, about heartbreak and love and all that, and you know, two people who love each other. Okay, so this was first, and All That Heaven Allows was after that, and then Written on the Wind was after that, and yeah, and then Imitation of Life was his last movie. I did not even know that was his last film in 1959. Holy hell! Interesting. Well, you learn something new every day. Anyway, so this movie right here, sad, very sad, a very tragic story, but. There's a happy ending in the end, but God, you gotta go through it to get to it. So let me tell you about it. Now, first of all, before I get into this, I should mention that Criterion had decided to put an the earlier version of Magnificent Obsession from 1935, directed by John M. Stahl, in the on disc 2. And so you basically have two. So I had two movies to watch. I'm gonna basically be reviewing the Sirk version because that's the main feature. But I do want to talk about the Stahl version a little bit, so that'll be at the end. But the main plot, but there are differences in the plot. That's what I'm trying to get at. But I'm gonna focus on the main Sirk, how the Sirk movie works. So anyway, Rock Hudson, he plays a guy named Bob Merrick. And it's based on a book, by the way. It's based on a novel by Lloyd C. Douglas. So Bob Merrick is this playboy who's very kind of selfish, kind of young punk, and he's in a speedboat at the beginning of the movie. He's trying to break this speed records, racing and all that, and he ends up getting into an accident. And so they rush him out into the shore, and his heart is stopped, I guess, and so they need a reviver, or refibrillator, whatever it is, and there's only one in the hospital nearby, Bridgewood Hospital, and it's owned by a doctor, Dr. Phillips, who at the same time that Merrick needs the machine and gets the machine, has a heart attack and ends up dying due to the fact that he can't be revived because the machine was with Merrick. And so so Dr. Merrick's wife, gosh, I've already forgotten her name. Helen, played by Jane Wyman, and her daughter their daughter Joyce are told the bad news, and they end up hating Merrick for feeling so bad, feeling selfish about it. And Merrick doesn't feel anything until he realizes that, he could have been, that he realized that at the same time the doctor keeps asking for Dr. Phillips when he's in bed. Excuse me. And so he ends up having to, so then when he finds out that, he basically, he inadvertently caused Dr. Phillips' death, he ends up, feeling really bad about it, and yeah, it ends up becoming a bit of a problem for him. And so later on, he breaks out of the hospital, and he ends up running into Helen, and Helen picks him up and gives him a ride, not knowing who he is, you know. And so, however, when she tells him who she is, he gets very upset. Bob gets really upset and just has to get out. And so she ends up helping him out, and he ends up getting a ride to town or something. And gosh, I'm trying to remember, because it's weird when you watch two separate movies together, and you watch you're trying to review the first movie, but the second one stays in your mind a little bit better. But yeah, so he ends up getting revived, and I guess he finds out that he wants to help Helen. He finds out in the hospital, or he finds out through one of his friend, a friend of Dr. Phillips, that I guess the doctor had a theory where it's sort of like a pay it forward kind of theory, where you help someone and you weren't supposed to tell them, trying to help someone and not tell them, to tell anyone about it, And so there's this, so Bob feels like a new person, and so he wants to try this theory out. Helen has found out who Bob is, and she's basically, upset with him and doesn't want to see him. And of course, Joyce is really upset with him as well. And so while he's there, Bob ends up helping a guy, giving him some money. And Bob at first wants to give Helen money to support the hospital, because her father was in some, her husband was had some weird business deals that fell through, and so basically they were almost broke outside of the house, and the hospital was apparently going to have to, they may have to foreclose the hospital or something if they didn't get enough money. And Bob, is willing to pay, but Helen doesn't want his charity and all that. And so, however, he ends up helping this guy, and he ends up feeling like this, when he helps this guy and tells him, don't tell anyone, he sees Helen, and so he talks to her, tries to get to know her better, because he really wants to help her. He's really trying to make her life better, and she's really busy, and she's still really weary about him. And so they get into a car together and they talk, and she ends up getting out, and she opens her door and she gets out, and a car comes by and hits Helen, and she ends up going into the hospital, and they operate on her, they recover her. And the deal is she survives the hit, the accident. However, due to cranial pressure, she has been rendered blind, and so it's possible that she'd be blind for the rest of her life. Her daughter's in tears, and when Bob finds out, he's just heartbroken that he caused this, and so he ends up finding out Helen's schedule, and Helen ends up becoming pretty self-sufficient. She learns how to use a cane, asks for help every once in a while, and so while she's at the beach with this young girl that she meets, this young little kid that she meets, she becomes aware of Bob's presence, and so she ends up telling, so the little girl ends up revealing Bob's presence. And so he tries to help her, and Helen doesn't know who Bob is, because obviously she's blind. So he disguises himself as a doctor, I think Dr. Robert something or other, I forget his last name. But I think it's Robert Merriweather or something, gosh, I can't remember. But yeah, so she ends up falling in love with him because, he spent so much time. Joyce finds out that Helen's been seeing this guy. Joyce was really upset because of the fact that, obviously he's the one who caused her to be blind in the first place. However, after a substantial period of time, later on in the movie, they end up reuniting after a while, and he invites her out. He wants to take her out and paint the town red with her, even though she's blind. Joyce sees this and Joyce sees the joy in her mother's, heart, and so she forgives Bob, and they go out, and he confesses that he loves her, and he finally confesses that he's actually Bob Merrick. And Helen confesses that she'd known for a while, and so he says, "I love you. Let's get married." And Helen doesn't want to get married, and so they end up going back, and then I think a few days later, a day later, he ends up going to see her, and Joyce finds out that she has run away. She ends up going off, going to New Jersey or something like that. I forget where it's even set. Does it say on here? I don't remember, but anyway. But so they have to he and his friend have to catch a plane, and so they try to find his friend, and I guess, gosh, I don't remember a lot of this. Toward the end, basically he finds out that he finds out where Helen is, and he finds out that Helen is, that's what happens. So later on so some time passes, and he ends up becoming a doctor. And he ends up becoming a partner at the hospital, at Bridgewood Hospital, and so he ends up finding out later on. He ends up reuniting with the friend of Dr. Phillips, and he thanks him and all that, and he finds out. He says, "Maybe you can help Helen," and he's like, "Oh shoot, you know where Helen is," so it's like, we gotta go. So he sees Helen, and so he puts on his garb and he helps her. I guess she could die from pneumonia or something, or she needs some surgery, and so he ends up performing the surgery on her. Yeah, I think it's brain surgery or something like that. So he ends up performing the surgery, and she recovers, and she's still blind. However, he ends up, I guess, relieving some of the pressure on her brain, so that after a good period of time, she says in the last scene that she ends up beginning to see light, and so he reveals that over time you will begin to regain your sight again, and so it's in it. So that's basically in the movie, and again the title comes from I think the friend, and gosh, I forget his name, and I wonder if it says it in here. I'll know it if I see it. Randolph. I think his name is Randolph, and so he mentions to Bob that he says, when you help someone, it'll become an obsession helping someone, but it's a magnificent obsession. And so that's where the movie title comes from, or the book title comes from. So anyway, so that's the movie. Again, it's a really sad movie. Wyman and Hudson, again, pull it off again. Sirk and Hudson made some great movies with this one, and Written on the Wind. I haven't seen All That Heaven Allows in a while. I've seen Written on the Wind a couple times since I first reviewed it years ago. But I've only seen All That Heaven Allows once, and I know it's a kind of a dark movie because of the theme of forbidden love, because of their ages, how they Wyman's character falls in love with Hudson's character, and vice versa, and how they're kind of shunned from the community because of their age difference. In this case, it's different. It's just how the big theme is how love transcends forgiveness, or vice versa. Forgiveness is sometimes the path to love, and it's an interesting story. It's a really, really interesting story. Again, very, very sad. I was like, oh God, the husband dies. Oh God, the wife's gonna die now. Oh God, she lost her sight. And I'm like, oh God, this is sad. This is heartbreaking, So anyway, so Magnificent Obsession, a great movie. I may pick this one up. It's definitely a really trippy story. I was really, really impressed by just how powerful the story is too. Again, kind of what are the odds? It's one of those what are the odds kind of movies. But at the same time, sometimes they're entertaining. So I'll give it that. So Magnificent Obsession A, I would check this one out. Supplements. Disc 1 has the odd commentary. 2 interviews with Allison Anders and Catherine Bigelow, where they talk about Cirque, the trailer. And then disc 2 has the original feature-length film, Magnificent Obsession, which stars Robert Taylor as Bob Merrick and Irene Dunn as Helen Phillips. And the big difference and they're both produced by Universal, funny enough. The big differences between the two is that the Robert Taylor, the Stahl version is definitely a lot more funnier. Definitely, there's a weird level of humor to it. I mean, they don't treat the whole movie with humor, but there's a lot of, hey, how's it going? Robert Taylor's character is a lot more humorously flippant about the situation, and I don't think I don't remember seeing, you don't see Merrick, Taylor's Merrick getting in an accident. It's just revealed. In fact, I don't think you meet Taylor until right after it's revealed that Dr. Phillips died for this guy, and Helen vows to hate him forever and all that. And so yeah, there's a lot of humor. There's Bob Merrick has a British butler who's like a kind of comic relief, and yeah, so that's the big difference. There's a lot more humor to it than to the 1935 version than the 54 version, which is pretty much deadly serious. But yeah, the 35 version is definitely, there's a little bit of humor, and I think a lot of that has to do with early Hollywood. I feel like a lot of movies were like that. There was even the dramas had some sense of humor to it, which is funny because I've seen a lot of there have been a number of I've seen a lot of pre-code Hollywood movies that were not deadly serious, but were definitely a lot more serious than Magnificent Obsession 35. So again, maybe it was just Taylor's character, maybe it was Stahl, that's how he wanted to add it. Yeah, outside of that, I can't really think of any big differences. I mean, settings, there's different places in setting, but yeah, basically same structure. Merrick and Phillips meet, and he breaks out. They meet in the car, and she ends up getting into an accident, losing her sight, and then he tries to woo her back, and he takes her out, and so it's basically the exact same structure of the movie. Again, the big difference is the humor. That's basically the biggest change I can think of. So yeah, it works, and again, I love when Criterion does that. I love when Criterion can get their hands on a supplemental movie. So you're actually considering, again, I think I mentioned this before, considering how pricey these DVDs are, if you can get 2 movies, let's do it, Outside of that, the only other supplement is an 82 documentary from 1991 called From UFA to Hollywood, Douglas Sirk Remembers. It's a German film with him talking about his career. Douglas Sirk, long 82-minute documentary about him talking about his career. And yeah, back to supplements. How about that? So anyway, that's it for now. Magnificent Obsession, great movie. Tearjerker, good God. Ain't it funky now? Hey. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, El Norte. And then Saturday we may not have a review. I'm not sure. But I'm trying to get steady back into it for a number of reasons. Only because after El Norte, oh God, oh dear God, Buñuel, no, Buñuel, no, I can't do this. I can't do it. No, I don't want to do it. Buñuel, yeah, Exterminating Angel, more Buñuel, Simon of the Desert. At least this one's only 45 minutes. Oh, good God. Yeah, so at least that's just I can't stomach Buñuel, but maybe I can choke down a 45-minute Buñuel film. Probably not. I'll be vomiting all over the place. Anyway, after that, we got some more Hobson's Choice. It just came in today for me. The last Metros after that, I'm still waiting on that to come in. It should be here either tomorrow or Saturday. And
And then I've also got Il Generale della Rovere, which is another, I think, Rossellini film. Oh, great. It's anything like Taking a Power by Louis XIV or any of those Eclipse films you just saw. Oh, God. I'm not in for a long run. Of course, we're ending the season with Rossellini, so what are you going to do? So anyway, so yeah, we will get to that, again, all next week. I went ahead and put a hold on the next one, whatever the name of it is, Haydn. It's an Andre Vita film. Gosh, Danton. That's coming. I'll put a hold on that. And then after that, I think what's his name's coming up soon. What is his name? Kurosawa's coming up soon. Yeah, Dores Kaden. After that, Akira Kurosawa. Oh God, and then Nagisa Oshima's In the Realm of the Senses. Oh God, I'm not ready for that one. Maybe I can take a break and let the Eclipser do one. I think he's got a Hiroshi Shiguma Ruby or some Eclipse set. And then another Oshima, Empire Passion. Oh, good God. Anyway, well, again, fingers crossed we won't have to get to that for a while, for a few weeks. So, anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Don't race your boats. Don't race your boats in lakes trying to beat things. And if you're a hospital, get more than one refibrillator. Just saying, you know. If you are, let's see, and don't get out of cars on the traffic side because you could get hit and lose your eyesight. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow for El Norte. All these languages. Quiche, Spanish, and English. Anyway, until then, goodbye.